say Aunt B closed the door behind Caper and Sia. Putting them out on the street. Even as the locks continued to click into place against the dangers out here. Let's say the dangers. Say the dangers out there. I don't know if that's right, but we'll do it that way. Even as the locks continue to click into place against the dangers out there, Caper asked, "Why does she always say that to us every time?" Sia eyed Caper with typical suspicion. She could never tell when the boy was screwing with her or was legitimately, that's not how you spell that, but the computer knows how to spell it. That's all that matters. Why would I need to know anything? I'm just the writer. She could never tell when the boy was screwing with her or was legitimately stupid from moment to moment. He was older than her, taller than her, and darker than her. Sia felt in her heart that she was smarter and more mature and surely better looking, if she did say so herself. Looking good in a city covered in dirt and dust, with much of it being radiated, was a relative measure indeed. Okay. Sia finally decided Caper was really asking, so she answered, "Because she wants us to be safe. Why else would..." Alright, hold on, let me fix this. So she wants us to be safe. New sentence. Why else would she say it? Caper adjusted the straps on his pack. It was empty now, but wouldn't stay that way if they were lucky and resourceful. Sometimes they were. You had to be to survive as kids in a place like this. just that she says it every time. Sia unconsciously tapped her hands on each of her weapons, the ones that could be seen and the ones hidden for emergencies. Comforting herself with the ritual that they were still there and ready to kill if killing was needed. She wants us to be safe every time. What's your confusion today? Do you finally have the brain rot? I just think it's funny. I just think it's funny, he said, as he stepped out from the alcove into the open street. He looked both ways, as if these were the old days, when well-meaning folks driving in their cars to and from work, school, or church might run a kid down by accident. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility. That they could still be run down and killed in a manner of speaking. But there were no more well-meaning families cruising the streets of this city. Everyone left would be hiding somewhere in these ruins or outside the city in the deserted reaches of the land. Funny how. Caper, explain the joke to me. No joke. Get your panties out of a wad. I'm just saying that she says it every time. Like, if she don't say it, then we might decide to run off and be unsafe on purpose. It's just a thing people say. Caper. Like, don't get your panties in a wad. It don't really mean anything, but we say it anyway, just for something to say. Well, that was all I was asking. You ready to go? Gunfire popped off in the distance, but it wasn't a great distance. Sia couldn't tell by the echoes if it were real gunpowder bullets or if they were pneumatic weapons. Both types had questionable accuracy, but would kill you just as dead if they caught you. Let's stick to the alleys and get going before we lead them to our door. Sia said, "Okay then, Sia, lead the way. Oh, and be safe." She stuck up both middle fingers at him, but she did lead the way, and he followed as they weaved their way block to block. Caper tapped her shoulder and motioned with his head toward a broad opening in the cinder block wall beside them. Much of that building had long ago collapsed in on itself in a heap of crumbling stone and various other debris. It was long enough ago that spindly spindly little pine trees had sprouted out of the shallow dirt gathered in among the bricks. Nothing worth eating, so what was the point? As the kids took cover behind what remained of the wall, they had to keep their feet still to avoid disturbing all that uneven stone. Sia, let me do a new paragraph. Sia had not seen what had prompted him to call for taking cover, but as dumb as Caper could be, she trusted that if he saw something he didn't like, there was a good, let me pull that up where everybody can see, there was a good chance she wouldn't like it either. Then she heard the voices. Like the gunshots, she couldn't quite identify them right away. But mostly she didn't like people, and she especially disliked strangers. So taking cover felt right. Alright, Tom Duffy, out eating calamari and shrimp, just dropped in to say a quick hi. Well, that's very good of you, man. I appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying your calamari and shrimp. Are you eating them fried or just raw, or how do you have that stuff? All right, but mostly she didn't like people, and she especially disliked strangers, so taking cover felt right. Sia, do anyone want to? He eats them raw from the creek behind his house. You have calamari in the creek behind your house? That doesn't sound right. I think that domestic calamari is something you got to watch out for. Around here we call those snakes. All right. Sia poked her head out. I'll say dared to poke her head out. Dared to poke her head out to see what was what. It was other kids. They were older than her and Caper, but not by much. Oh, we want another story. All right, hold on, Armand. But not by much. All right, let's see what we got here. All right. Armand redeemed 1,000 channel points for a story, so let's see if we got a fun fact that might not have come up in natural conversation here. Of course, you guys can engage me in conversation anytime you like. It's not that you have to pay for stories or anything. But originally, I was planning to go for a religion degree. I was actually a licensed minister with the Southern Baptist Church. I don't know if that's a very good bragging point with how they've acted in recent years, but uh, so that was my original plan, and I just kind of went into a junior college, so I didn't really have to declare a major, and then I was planning to go to a 4-year college for the last 2 years of school, and I still was thinking of going into some kind of ministry. I didn't know what, and I kept getting advice from other ministers that or teachers, just a whole slew of people, to get a degree in something else. And then, if you were going on with ministry, you could go to seminary, which is essentially, I guess, like a master's degree in religion or whatever. And so I ended up like going for education. And the idea behind it was always sort of a backup plan. This idea of everybody felt like, well, sometimes you have to be bivocational where you have two jobs or that kind of thing. So I ended up going for the education degree. And I went through all of that. And when I was getting ready to graduate, I was weighing my options. And one, of course, at that point was to go ahead and get a teaching job, and another was possibly to go to seminary. And so I started applying to different counties around, and then I ended up getting a teaching job. And so I just became a teacher and kind of drifted away from that. And I've always been sort of a person of faith and a religious person and that kind of thing. Even though my ideas about what that means has changed some over time, I've never really abandoned the idea of God or anything of that nature. But I kind of drift away from the idea of full-time ministry and just kind of was doing other things. And so I taught school for, good Lord, was it 16 years? 16 and a half years, something like that. And then I was getting sick, but my son started having problems, and so I quit teaching. At that point I quit teaching to take care of him, and at that point I was writing, not making much money from it. But the idea was I would break out my retirement from teaching and stay home and write and all that. I do feel that writing is my calling. I do feel like it's the thing that satisfies me. But that original plan was just kind of getting the degree in that and doing some form of ministry. I don't know that it would have been a pastor or anything like that. But I just kind of had that idea in my head, and just sort of, my path through life kind of sort of evolved over all that time. But had things gone differently, maybe I would have gotten a religion degree, and who knows what would have happened. God told you, right? yeah. There's a slew of contradictions since then. So had I gotten the religion degree, I probably would not have written the award-nominated, by the way, story, Seersucker Motherfucker. I wish when I visited friends outside New Orleans, they used to catch crawfish by the buckets in the backyard. Those are good if they're cooked well. It's funny, we don't really, we have crawfish around here, but they're not as abundant as you'll find them in other parts of the South. And I remember at one point there was a crawfish like crossing the road. We got kind of a marshy area around the neighborhoods over here and near where I live in the woods. And I think I was running or something. And this crawfish started crossing the road, and I just kind of stopped because, I hadn't seen a crawfish in quite a while. And as it was crossing the road, it kind of felt threatened by me and just kind of stood back and held up its claws like it was ready to fight. And I was like, I'll go on with that. So he just walked on, and then I ran on. So apparently I'm the crawfish whisperer too. So it's a power that I've highly neglected and haven't really done anything with. They were older than her and caper, but not by much. Still, they posed a real threat. Older kids got bored. They were stronger even when malnourished. And older kids got bored. They were stronger even when malnourished. And they got mean. As near as she could tell, they or playing some sort of game. Each had a weapon and was using it to knock a can, an empty can, back and forth between them. They didn't really seem all that enthusiastic about their game. Again, all right, let me fix seam here real quick. All right, they didn't really seem all that enthusiastic about their game, about their play, let's say. Again, boredom spelled danger in kids their age, even if they hadn't gotten the brain rot. A few of them tried to bounce the can in the air before passing it over to a new player. One boy, Sia guessed it was a boy. One boy, Sia guessed it was a boy. It was hard to tell. Alright, I'm making the sentence too complicated. Let me break this up. One boy sat in the curve of a broken piece of drainage tunnel. Above street level. She guessed it was a boy. Make that a period. It was hard to tell with all of them wearing gas masks. Another person, maybe a girl, strolled over and sat down with him in that scant shelter. As the others played and barked threats at one another through their masks, this couple put their heads close together and talked quietly. Sia felt a real longing in that moment that she didn't have words for. Sia, be quiet, boy. Let me think. She interpreted the longing has a desire to get away from here without being noticed. Okay, caper, move, but do it quietly. He hardly disturbed a rock. He hardly disturbed a single rock as he slinked back out onto the sidewalk. They made their way around the corner of the fallen building and up another street without being spotted. Arriving at the hollowed out gas station and convenience store, a few blocks farther down, they didn't bother to search inside. There had been nothing there to find for a very long time. What they needed was outside anyway. Damn it, Caper said. Someone messed it up. Keep your voice down. But someone messed it up. I'm going to mess you up if you don't keep your damn voice down. But see ya. Look what they did. I see it. Just recover what we can and leave the rest. It'll either grow back or it won't. They knelt together, brushing through the trampled herbs. This was the risk of having anything grow wild out here. Sia hoped it was just ignorance and not not blatant destruction. Okay, let me fix that. Oop, nope, that's not what I want to do. All right. If it was on purpose. Someone might still be around looking for whoever tended these herbs. Sia kept her head moving the whole time. Saw no one. That could change in a hurry. So she tried to hurry. I think that's all we're going to get, Caper said. Hardly worth bringing the backpack. I could carry this little bit in my pocket. Put it in the pack anyway, so it doesn't get crushed. I'm just saying. He gathered the picked herbs in a wet cloth and placed them in the pack. They moved on. Sia sensed Caper's mood drop. He probably needed some comforting. For a kid growing up at the end of the world, he sure was sensitive sometimes. She had no energy to be his comforter, though. So they traveled in silence for a while. As they crossed under the cover of a partially collapsed overpass, they reached the next row of buildings and started to climb. A couple of the pipes that jutted out from the walls shifted and squeaked. Alright, let me fix that. Shifted and squeaked under their weight, but none of them gave out. They climbed to the uneven rooftops and crossed several blocks in the air. coming to a recessed floor where part of a roof was missing. They took care to cross over on the metal beam instead of testing the sagging floor, giving sagging floor falling apart under the exposure and the elements. Slipping through a hole in the next firewall, they entered the garden. Light fed into the place in dusty shafts from surviving windows and open holes around the structure. That light and the dripping irrigation from the bent gutters tied into place over the tables. That light, let's say, provided what the small plants needed in order to thrive a little longer. Sia wondered again how many people knew this place was here. She'd never run into anyone else, but someone else harvested from time to time. It could have been animals of some kind, but she doubted it. It couldn't have been just anyone, or this place would be treated the same way as the exposed herb garden had been. They were careful to collect the small vegetables without hurting the plants. They also didn't take everything. Aunt B was specific about that. Being too greedy could rob you of future blessings. That's what the old woman said. Anyway, Sia suspected that was just one of those sayings that really had no meaning. Just a thing to say to people. Excuse me, I'm sorry. My need for water often holds me back in life, I think. All right, just a thing to say to people. Okay. Caper met eyes with Sia, and she had trouble reading his expression. There was emotion there and didn't quite seem to go with the benign act of picking vegetables. She couldn't tell if he was sad or scared. She could probably have just asked him, but she worried it might be a long story that resulted in them being out here long after dark. So Sia said, "Let's go." As I Sia just said. And they went. Along the rooftops, a while longer, they came to the end of the row, and Sia swung over to climb down the sheer side using the hidden handholds. Caper clicked his tongue a couple times. She took the hint and climbed back up before crouching at the edge. Then she saw it. A moment later, she heard it. A great machine tore its way down the highway. It mostly dodged the debris of rusted out wreckage in the lanes, but still clipped the pieces that had not been salvaged long ago. Some of those car chassis broke apart in oxidized dust, while others tumbled off the shoulders of the road with a clatter. The engine of the vehicle roared again, and it picked up speed as it raced along. Not far behind it, 3 other vehicles much like open motorcycles, but with more wheels, closed the distance. More of that gunfire pop sounded. She was pretty sure these were pneumatics. Let's say essentially overpowered slingshots. The projectiles. Alright, let me spell slingshots correctly. The projectiles punched holes in the hull of the fleeing truck. Let's say the armored hull. The truck did not slow as it approached the collapsed overpass. It tried to squeeze through, but then bound up with a crash, getting it impossibly stuck. The cycles took their time wheeling up behind the trapped vehicle. It's going to be hell getting through there again, Sia said. Those people are in trouble. Of course they are. Caper looked to her and then out on the scene again. Should we help? We should not, she said flatly. Seems a shame to just let them be killed like that. See aside before she could say anything else. Gunfire erupted from both parties. The pursuers first tried to take cover behind their bikes. One of them fell. The others raced for better cover as they continued to reload and shoot. She couldn't see how the people from the truck were faring underneath the bridge. Come on. She said, they won't notice us now as we move along. She climbed down the hidden footholds in the wall. Caper followed and said, it just seems a shame. She knew the right thing to do was to say nothing and just keep going, but instead she snapped at him and said, what's gotten into you? Because I don't like seeing people die. Yeah. Sorry about that. We don't know those people. Oop. Apparently I am just randomly hitting buttons now. We don't know those people. Caper. Well, not yet. We didn't used to know each other. We didn't used to know Aunt B, right? What's your point? She hopped down from the last few feet of wall. Caper climbed all the way down before stepping off. Seems like there should still be people worth meeting and helping, seeing as we're still here. That's all I'm thinking. The middle of a motor chase and gunfight isn't the best time to make new friends. We need to go. We need to finish our job, and we need to get back. He stared at her a moment and shrugged. You're the boss, I guess. Would be a shame if those were good people out there getting killed. She turned away and started walking. Would be a bigger shame if it were me. I guess someone should have told them to be safe before they headed out today. Funny. Real funny. See ya, he said as they followed. The gunfire eventually died off as they made their way down to the river. They didn't fish for anything, but they did check their snares and traps. We got one. Sia said. Make sure it's really dead. What are you saying, Caper? Of course it's dead. I just don't want the thing waking up once it's in my pack on my back. Sia took a knife and made sure it was dead. Since she already started, she quickly skinned it and wrapped up all the parts before Caper packed it away. They left the river and reached the edge of the highway again, far down from where the fight had taken place. Caper asked, "Do you like me?" Sia stared at him before going back to scanning the roadway and the buildings rising around them. Why would you ask me a question like that? I just want to be sure there is a person that cares that I'm here. She sighed. I care about you a lot more than those people fighting down the road. How's that? Sure, I guess. Stop being weird and keep your eyes open. I need you watching my back, not getting distracted. Whatever you say, Sia. They crossed the highway in a rush. This time they both looked in each direction. There had been some recent traffic after all. The engine noise from the cycles rose, but the vehicles never came into view. They weaved back through the city, pausing one more time. They weave back through the city, pausing one more time as the older kids in their masks strolled along a boulevard. That is not how that is spelled. Alright, there we go. The boy and girl from the broken tunnel holding hands as they walked along behind everyone else. The others kept kicking the can along as they went. As Sia and Caper waited for the can noise to diminish in the distance, he took her hand in his and laced their fingers together. Sia thought about the couple strolling through the street. Then she cleared her throat and shook Caper's hand away from hers. Stop. Don't be weird. I don't know where your hand has been. What do you mean? All the same places your hand has been. I seriously doubt that. She made her way across the now deserted roadway. What's that supposed to mean? He called as he followed. Keep your voice down and just come on. That need to be a quotation mark. They reached a different door from the one they had exited. Sia carefully tapped out the code on its metal surface. A muffled voice from within said, "Who is it? What did you bring me?" Sia growled under her breath and no, let's just have her growl under breath. Damn it all. Caper stepped forward. Stop screwing around and let us in, you little brat. Right now. The young boy unlocked and opened door. Caper shoved the kid backward and said, "That stuff isn't funny. Don't ever leave us out there." As Caper continued the scolding, Sia sealed the door and took the pack. She followed the smells of cooking into the kitchen and presented the findings to Aunt B. The old woman smiled and said, "That will do just fine. Kids, good work as always." Someone trampled the herb garden. Caper said, "Oh, that's a shame." Aunt B organized the... Oh, that's a shame. Aunt B organized the ingredients, the new ingredients. And continued cooking. Some people got trapped on the road by marauders. Caper went on, and I think they might have gotten killed. Oh my. I'm sorry you had to see that. That's why I always tell you to be careful. Let's say Sia rolled her eyes and stepped away. We came back alive, though. I'm proud that you both did. Very proud and very happy. Sia climbed up a ladder in the hall and crawled into a room formed out of old heating system duct. Her sleeping bag, bunched in one corner, so she spread it out under her again. A couple of her books had fallen over where they lined one wall, so she righted those. At the end of the space was a welded metal grill and a plastic bubble fitted over that. Sia pulled a cord and lifted the bubble so she could get some breeze through the grate. The city stunk. It always stunk. But she noticed it more when she smelled the air coming through here. Still, the breeze felt good as the sun finished setting. She watched the many streets and levels of the cityscape. She could see from this perch. Sia remained there, observing the city closely as she waited for dinner. She kind of hoped that boy and girl holding hands might pass by again.